Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. Got amazing, just amazing people on the ground in Kentucky taking care of the situation that's going on, and just so proud of our people stepping up and helping. Yeah. Thank God, I don't think any of our agents are hurt.
But, no, I was just on the phone this morning, and man, like people from everywhere have been reaching out saying, do you guys need anything? Are you okay? And luckily, yeah, where it happened, I think we didn't have a huge presence there, but definitely some. But I think everybody is okay. Just a lot of tragedy. So anything we can do to get down there and help, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, because I think it's a lot of our agents' relatives and friends and things like that. Stuff that you just emotionally can't even put your arms around. So we'll be praying, we'll be sending you resources, and we'll certainly be standing by on anything we can all do as a Keller Williams family. And I'm just super proud of everybody already. And it's only been 24 hours.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. I was talking to one person said that they raised $10,000 yesterday in like a matter of 6 hours, which is just insane. Really good. And also, Linda, I think I know we have hundreds of thousands of listeners on the podcast, and we don't just want to help Keller Williams people. So if anybody happens to know anybody in Kentucky that needs help or needs anything, or please email us or reach out to us or message us on social media or something, because we want to help no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, if we need to just check on your family or check on somebody you got that you haven't been able to get a hold of, be sure to let us know, because we have lots of people on the ground that can certainly help out in that. That's a great point, Dana.
Yeah.
So you and I spent a couple of days in Austin a few weeks ago. And one of the things that Gary said that was going to be important next year for our agents was actually 3 things. And so which one you want to talk about today?
Well, he gave them in an order. And so I don't know if we want to talk about them in that order or not, but the first one was leverage. All top agents right now are wanting to see how they can get more leverage, all spectrums of it, like where to find it, how to get it, whether things that they can do just to get more time back.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Leverage is such and it's hard for you and I because we've come so far on that journey.
Yeah.
So I have to go back and remember when I was hiring my first assistant, or even adding 2 or 3 assistants, because it's such a struggle. I feel for realtors. And, I'm trying to think, because I'm in other mastermind groups, and I'm trying to put my arms around, and it doesn't seem to be as difficult or a struggle for entrepreneurs in other industries. And I don't know what it is. And I don't know if it's just, in our minds as a realtor, you're supposed to do it all yourself. I don't know if we get caught up in these thoughts or these limiting beliefs. And you and I certainly have come down that journey and seen our lives drastically change by being able to get leverage in it. But I think it still is a struggle. And so I think for a lot of people next year, the first thing that has to happen is a mind shift about leverage is an investment, not a cost.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I wrote down one of the things that Gary told us. He said the number one question agents are asking right now is, how do I slow down and still make the same amount of money or more money? Or what even is my exit plan? And leverage is the answer to all of those questions in one.
Yeah, so true. So true. Because I think the last few years have just beat our industry up totally, mentally, physically, beat our agents up, because it can't be fun, showing a bajillion houses and your buyer still doesn't get it, and the buyer doesn't understand that it's not your fault. And, so it's a lot. And if you really care about your people, and our agents do, you emotionally get beat up yourself when they don't get houses and, can't buy a house and can't put their family in a house they want.
Yeah, I think I told you this. I think you're going to do a call with this agent. So thank you for doing that. But I was talking to an agent, and she said, she's a top agent. And she said over the last 2 years, she said, I don't know. I'm burnout, which, was the third thing Gary said, agents one or psychological tips for burnout. But she said, it's not even things that have happened personally to me over the last 2 years. It's things that have happened to either my family or my friends or my clients or their families. She said, I've just completely taken on the emotion of all of that. And it's completely put me in a place where now I don't know what my exit plan is, because I never really had one. And now I'm thinking about it, and I don't have the who's to move me into that space to even think about it.
Yeah, I have you. I mean, I have lots of thoughts around what is the solution for people. But my thought is this: one of the things I feel like doesn't really come into play soon enough is getting attached to what your purpose is.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe, first of all, I don't believe God would have put you on this path without it either being your purpose or a pathway to your purpose. And so I think, really connecting, because is it a career or is it a purpose? Because I think a career is something you feel like you can walk away from, you get burnt out of, those kind of things. But when you're living in your purpose, then I think it's gives you energy. It doesn't drain and suck your energy. And so I think maybe spending a little more time. I know I'm getting on the books in one of my market centers in the first of the year to teach Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
Because I think the more we can stay connected to what's the long-term game. Yeah. When we sit and play the short-term game, it's kind of like running on a tennis court. When you're running constantly, quickly to try to get the ball back, you're going to be exhausted. Whereas if you can stand back and just lob those balls back and forth, you don't exert near as much energy. You listen to me. You sound like I'm Serena or Venus or something. I just watched their show recently.
Adam will be so proud of you, Linda, when he listens to this podcast.
Yes, he will. But he'll say, Linda, you got a little messed up, but whatever. I did play a little bit of tennis in college, but that's been a long time ago. So, and I just watched the movie. If you haven't watched it,
oh
so
yeah.
good.
Oh, the kids have watched it like 3 times. They're obsessed with it. Obsessed.
Oh, I bet they are. Yeah, that would be fun for them, because they're such little tennis pros themselves.
I love it.
So I think that, to me, I think one of the first things, and I know it doesn't really sound related, but I think when you, when you have a big life and big plan, this is just a piece of it on the way. Yeah. And I don't think, I don't think you get as attached to who, you doing everything. Yeah. But I also think you have to really look up and say, what are my options? I know when I looked at my options, I had a really, really, really bad day that I always talk about in real estate. And I always say, it's one of those days when you go get your resume out of the drawer and you think, good Lord, is there anything else on this earth that I was meant to do? Right. And of course, when I got my resume out, it said, yep, minimum wage all over it. I thought, yeah, well, I'll go back and do this real estate thing a little bit longer. But I think when we look at what our options are, and when we think about if we were to go into either own another business or get into another job, then there's going to be things you have to do in that to be successful. Also, why not give this a chance to try leveraging yourself and getting more into the activities that give you energy, that don't necessarily drain your energy, and see what that would do for you.
Yep, totally. You just made me think of something. Last week, I interviewed Coach Jim Tressel and Simon Aries for and we met them at the Maxwell Exchange, and I've just stayed friends with them. But I interviewed them for some of our Columbus agents for our Christmas party. And one of the questions I asked them was, how have you all avoided burnout? And then what have you done, through your career? And Coach Tressel said something that aligned exactly with what you just said, Linda. He said, of course, I wanted to win championships and I wanted our football teams to always win. And he said, but at the end of the day, I cared more about changing the lives of those players and making sure that I made an impact on them. And so whenever I was in a burnout period, it wasn't about like, oh, okay, we're not winning, or we've got to work harder because we've got to win. He said, I just took myself back to, I'm in this because I'm going to change these players' lives. And he said, and when I went back to that, it kind of quickly pulled me through the burnout. And then something that Simon said that I loved was, he said, we think that sometimes the grass is greener on the other side, but really it's not. So if you're thinking of it's greener where you water it, so if you're thinking of your burnout and maybe I'll just forget it and go do something else. He said this much better than I am, but he said, It's just that when you go and do that, you're still going to have hard days in that new thing too. You're still going to get burnout in that new thing too. We just automatically sometimes think, well, the grass is greener, so I'll just forget this and go do this. When really what we need to do is just keep pouring into what we have. And maybe we need some days of rest, or we need, to find better leverage, or all of those things. But ultimately, it all came down to the people that they were around, and then their bigger purpose of why they were doing it. And then they could go find the leverage that they needed.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, I was teaching business planning a couple of weeks ago, and there were several agents that are really pretty successful in the class, and they need leverage. It is their next natural step. It is the thing they need the most. And yet there's the hesitancy. So I asked one of them, which I always do, what do you think is the big thing holding you back from getting that form of leverage in hiring someone? And is it that if it might not work out and you'd have to let them go? And most of the time that's what people say.
Yeah.
They're so afraid of having to let them go. And I always think about a time when my daughter asked me, Mom, isn't it hard to let people go? And I said, it is hard. And I don't think it ever gets easier to let people go. However, let me ask you a question. If someone's not succeeding in a role, why do you think that is? And she said, well, probably because they, don't know how to do the role, or they're not meant for the role. And I said, absolutely. So am I doing something to them or for them if I let them go to find something that does fit who they are and what their gifts are? And then the other thing is I returned to the team leader and I said, hey, will you do me a favor? If she hires someone, it doesn't work out, would you go in? Because the team leaders had lots of experience of, leading people and letting people go. And I said, would you go in and be with her and either do it for her or do it with her? And she said, absolutely. And, because I think sometimes what we have to say is, what is the one thing that's holding us back from leverage?
Yeah.
It's either we don't know, we're either not clear on what leverage looks like, or if it's a person, a system, or a tool. We maybe are afraid that it's going to make us step up to the plate and have to perform higher. I know in my case, and lots of times, I like freedom and I hate, restrictions, and I hate monotony. And sometimes when you start leading people, you've got to put a few more structures in place. And so in the past, I've been afraid of it encroaching on my freedom a little bit. And so, but yet what I've found is if you can learn to do it right, then you're going to get an immediate relief. It won't take a long time. It'll be an immediate relief.
Don't you think too, a lot of people, I find a lot of agents are scared of leverage because they don't even know what to tell them to do once they have the person.
Yeah. And, it's so funny because even, I just made a recent hire, and, I'm one of those people, if I don't know what to do, I start asking people. I ask you, hey, what's Heather's job description? Hey, the problem is I learn in motion. I don't learn sitting back thinking about it. So I've learned if I'll just start moving or asking people for things, I'll ask Terry, my coach, hey, can you send me a 30, 60, 90, for an assistant that of, or, for a team leader or whatever. And a lot of times just looking through something like that will jolt my own memory of, oh my goodness. And you know what? I've thought the same thing, Dana, and it's never an issue of knowing once they get on board all the things they could do. I think the other fear is, what if I don't have enough for them to do? And have you ever had that be an issue?
No.
Matter of fact, you pile them so much, you're like, God, I hope they don't quit right away.
You find stuff. Yeah. And, I remember one time I heard Gary say that a great hire will, even if you don't know all the things to tell them to do, they'll go follow you around for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. Or if it's a, mega, or it's a buyer's agent, have them go follow other people's buyer's agents or whatever, and then come back to you and tell you what they need to do. And then he said one time a great hire will rip the tasks out of your hands that you don't even know that you need ripped out. They'll just take them from you.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And I think the other roadblock is a lot of times people don't have a good process to put people through. And I think about the days when I probably spent the whole time I was in an interview process selling that person on why they should work for me. Or join our team or do whatever. And that is, 180 degree different now. Now it's getting to know them better, trying to figure out what am I missing, or what's going to show up when they show up the first day of work, all of those things.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree. Totally agree. I was actually looking back through, what did he say? Oh, there was one thing I was looking for that Gary said that played into leverage. Oh, I know what it was. He said one of the reasons also why people are cautious about leverage or about hiring somebody is just the fear of, them not doing what they're supposed to be doing or letting them down. And so somebody in the room asked, what do you do in that situation once you already, maybe you have the leverage, but you don't have the right leverage? And I wrote this down. I love when Gary said, he said two things. He said, one, I've kept my promise, and my promise was the money. You've never not gotten paid, have you? Right? No, you've always gotten paid. So the pay hasn't changed. It's the value. It's what's kept you here. But now let's talk about your promise to me, which was to continue on, with the role and to keep doing that. And then he said that he says, which I'm going to work myself up to saying this, have the courage to say this, I love you more than you love yourself, and I need you to get up to speed. And so sometimes I think when people have been burned on the leverage side of things, then they may even have leverage right now, but it might not be the right leverage. And so it's learning how to have those conversations to go back to figure out, okay, you're supposed to be leveraged, but I'm not really feeling like you're leveraged. So how can we work that out and change that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, I just think there's so many things, there's so many components in it, but it's like a big elephant. It doesn't matter where you start. It's one bite at a time. You're going to eat the whole thing. So you can't worry about all the what ifs, or what if they don't work out, or what if I don't have enough for them to do. Just have faith that if you look at most top producing realtors, they have leverage and they figured it out. If they can figure it out, you can figure it out too. But I think to go into 2022 and continue to think that you can do it all.
Yep.
I can see why burnout is rampant,
Yeah.
You're doing too many of the tasks that you are not gifted to do. And that's where energy drains and leaves your body. It doesn't fill you up and give you energy.
Yep. I totally agree. I was trying to think of one thing that everybody could leave listening to this podcast to go figure out about leverage for next year. And I'd love to know your thoughts on this too. And I was thinking, I feel like everybody needs to go back and make a list of where do they actually need leverage? Like, what is it that they need leverage in, and just like brain dump it. Just make a list and write it all down. It might be at your house. It might be with your kids. It might be with your business or your team or whatever that is. Like, where are all the places that you need leverage? And then which one's most important to tackle first? And then what do you need to do to start to either look for that person or go back and have a conversation with the person that you already have? Because I just think that I feel like the pandemic caused people to be more aware of their time and how they spend it and what they do with it and who they spend it with and all of those things.
It's funny you should say that, because I actually looked at this piece of paper I'm making notes on as you're talking to remind myself, and it's new assistant. And what I do is I take my notes section of my phone, because we have ideas periodically. It's that we don't capture them, that we're worried about it. So I have for months and months always had a section on my phone that says new assistant. And so just to give you an idea, I mean, because what I do first is I just list them all, get them off my brain onto a piece of paper. And then I go back and I put business, personal, a priority within the next 2 weeks, within the 30 days. So here's some of the things that are on mine. Help with my food recipes, because we're trying to be pescatarian. So, and I won't put that at the top of her list. Like, she ain't going to get that the first day. She's going to get that a few days in, but I just dump them so that I don't forget about them. Set up for exercise for when I travel. So I look at my life and I say, what needs fixing? Because they're there to fix the things in my life that are not correct.
That's a great question for everybody to ask themselves as they go back and do this.
Of course, that's a Southern question. What needs fixing?
Fixing. I-N, not a G on the end.
Do impact filters. And what I mean by that, you and I know what an impact filter is, but anytime I come up with an idea of a project, I want her to get the impact filter out, because I don't write my thoughts well. I speak my thoughts. So I want her to have the impact filter, ask me the questions, and then fill in the blanks. Do a 4x4, and a 4x4 is a form that I have learned from Strategic Coach that tells a new person or any person on your team what's the things they need to do in their role faster, cheaper, achieve more of, blah, blah, blah. And then at the bottom is my favorite two section is, one section is how can they be a hero in that role? And then the other section is how do they drive me crazy in that role? So one of my things to drive me crazy is to not keep me up informed on where the projects are that I've given you.
Yeah.
Because when they go in what we call a black hole, I
Yep.
make up stories that
Yep.
they're not even happening at all. And so that's a big thing for me. And so, and if a project is stalled, I am definitely the person that they want to bring it to. So that's part of what I go ahead and get out on the table is don't not keep me in the loop of where a project is, especially if it's stalled, because I'm a problem solver.
Yeah. I love one of the
with-
things that they may do, Linda, and I love, this is one of the reasons why, many reasons why I love Heather, but every time she does something like it, all she does is respond to the email done with a check or a period.
Yes.
And like that, automatically I'm like, okay, perfect. You know, I can start, instead of keeping wondering about it.
Yeah. Or, I forget, I have so many ideas. I forget which ideas I've given her so far.
Totally.
I might give the same idea 4 times. But create material, manage my calendar. And then I put on there, I'm after a desired outcome on my calendar. So I need you to help remind me and tell you what that desired outcome is. And we keep continually working till my calendar looks exactly like I want it to look.
That's so good. I love that.
I want a picture album of our top people in one of our market centers that I'm stepping back into so that when I see their face, I know their name. I want you to get the book on love languages at work, and I want our team to go through it together. Book lunches with Carrie, which is my CFO, because that's important to her.
Yeah.
Schedule time with my daughter, my grandkids, my all that.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a silly one. Send off and get my original birth certificate that has my date on it. Add Andy to my email. Andy's my digital marketer, and he's not on my email. I can never figure out how to get him an email, get my new computer set up, manage my calendar, can be online, but you got to print it for me each week if it is online, set up our podcast guest, get investment course launched, put all of Shannon Waller emails in a folder.
So it's just an ongoing list that you keep, right? Because I do the same thing.
Yeah. And then what I do is, what I ask her to do is put together in whatever form she wants. I want her to put, where is the project?
Yes.
And what do they need from me to keep the project going? Because I don't want to be the bottleneck. And sometimes I can be the bottleneck. And then what I've learned to do is if I'm the bottleneck, I get them to talk me through why am I procrastinating on it, because I don't procrastinate if it's important. If it's important or I can do it easily, it's done almost as fast as it's out of my brain. So there's a reason I am procrastinating. And so part of their job is to help me figure out what it is. Is it the method I'm trying to do it? Is it a who that's missing? Is it a skill I'm not good at or whatever? I'm just like sitting here laughing to myself because there's so many things. And like one of the things that Heather and I just did was we just made a Google sheet of anybody and everybody and all their addresses, because every year when I go to send Christmas cards, I get so stressed out because I feel like I can't find everybody's addresses and they're in this book or that I had them on this email or they're here. And then I'm like, okay, I'm sending out 300 Christmas cards. And so this year I was like, okay, we're going to make a spreadsheet and make a system so that we don't ever have to think about this again. And we'll just keep adding people every time I'm like, oh, I really want to send them a Christmas card. Then they'll just go on the list. And now we have everybody's addresses and they're all organized. Dana's people, Adam's people, work people, whoever. But it's little things like that, man, like without some leverage, I don't know how people get little things or big things done. I mean, it's like, you can't do it all yourself. Well, I think the moral of what we're saying here, Dana, is if whoever's listening's fear is that you won't have enough for them to do. I have never not had enough for somebody to do. Matter of fact, if anything, I probably try to put too much on one particular person when I really probably need 2 or 3 in my life. So I had a great conversation on Friday with Nancy, who works with me, and she kind of is our CFO over all the market centers and all the things we do. And after about 4 hours of us going through a list, it ended with, she needs an assistant. I mean, she's always been like the go-to and everybody throws everything at her and all this stuff. And then when we got and I kept thinking it, going through it, and I thought about it earlier and I'd had it on my list. And then finally I was like, okay, here's the deal. Like she's amazing, but you're never gonna get all this crap done. Like now you need somebody to help you. Like now you've been the leverage, but you've got to have some leverage or there's just no way it's going to happen. So I think that when
when you're constantly in motion, like you said earlier, and you're doing things, whether you're figuring them out or you're building them or whatever, there's always more to do once you dive into it deeper, because then you start to think about other things too.
Yeah. And I think your family life will get more productive because you'll be able to have more quality time with your family. Yep. And I think your work life will be more productive because you're going to spend time in the things that give you energy and that you love doing and keep the burnout away.
Yep. Totally agree. Totally agree. That'll walk us right into our next one. Talk a little bit more about burnout.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, Dana, I would want the audience to remember, if you have not hit subscribe, please go down and hit that button right now. And the greatest compliment you can give Dana and I is a referral to anyone that you know of that would get benefit from our conversations. And we would certainly love to have a review that helps other people find us even better when you give us reviews. And thank you guys. We've been getting some great praise from everyone. And we keep saying we're going to remember to read the praise, and we haven't done that yet, but we will get to it.
We'll get a system around.
I mean, this is only our second year. What do you expect, right?
I know.
You expect us to get professional at this. And remember, if you have a comment, question, thought, idea, or know someone that'd be a great guest on our podcast, be sure and reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And Dana, I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.